The Senate will today, being the second day for when this motion has been allocated time, consider the charges leveled against the Deputy President. There are 11 charges. These are the charges leveled by the mover of the motion at the National, Honorable Kibwezi West lawmaker, Honorable Mwengi Mutuse. And having heard from the team representing the National Assembly for the better part of yesterday, today the Defense Council for the Deputy President, led by their lead counsel, Paul Muite, will be having their time to counter the accusation leveled against the Deputy President. But last evening, or last night, before the Senate adjourned its sitting to sit again today morning, we had heard from a number of witnesses from the prosecution side. We heard from the evidence-in-chief, who also happens to be the mover of the motion, as well as former KEMSA CEO, Dr. Andrew Mulwa. According to the ruling by the Speaker, this morning, members of the Senate will have their time that will be directed by the Speaker of the Senate to cross-examine the witnesses, and we expect the prosecution side to equally prosecute their matter to conclusion today. Remember, they have a balance of about 45 minutes, and they still have a number of witnesses that are set to appear before the Senate. They include Mercy Wanjau, who also serves as the Secretary to the Cabinet, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, Mr. Peterson Njomo Mushira, and another witness that is set to take a stand at the Senate this morning is an official from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Remember, the defense team had objected to the introduction of the official from EACC, terming that as a new evidence that was being introduced midway. But the Speaker of the Senate ruled that that was not the case, as the evidence was just coming to support the evidence already presented. So for the better part of today, we'll be having the Deputy President and his council convince senators as to why they should be throwing out the charges leveled against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. That is before the Senate votes on each and every charge leveled against the Deputy President. And in the event any of the charges upheld, then the Deputy President will stand to be impeached by the Senate. And our dear viewers, allow me to hand over for this live broadcast as the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has already stepped into the chamber this morning. My name is Gladys Mungai. Have yourself a great morning and enjoy your viewing.
Tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, twakusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba utuajalie tuyatende na kufikia mambo yote atakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
The quorum bell is currently on a ring mode at the Senate this morning, following the directives by the Speaker, Honorable Amason Jeffrey Kingi, that the Sergeant at Arms during the quorum bell for 10 minutes to give some sort of leeway for senators to make their way into the chamber this morning to necessitate the quoration of the House to about 15 senators, according to the standing orders of the House, for the House to commence business this morning, which is the hearing and determination of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Away from that, allow me to take you through some of the evidence and documents that have been tabled before the Senate for consideration. The National Assembly has forwarded the following documents to support their case. The documents include the impeachment motion and witness affidavits, the exhibits of the impeachment motion, the public participation report, the House proceedings, the Deputy President's response in regards to the motion to kick him out of office, and an affidavit by Peterson Njomo Mushira, among others, as the support for their case against the Deputy President. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is currently facing 11 charges listed in the motion for his impeachment, that by the end of today, the House will vote on each and every charge. And in regards to the laws of impeachment that guides the Senate, in the event that the senators vote to uphold either of the 11 charges, the Deputy President would stand impeached. But that will not be the end, or that might not be the end, as he might opt to continue fighting for his political lifeline through the courts. The other probable outcome is that the Senate, upon hearing the defense and the prosecution side, and after having voted, the other way would be to probably, in the event they don't find the charges, the 11 charges, to have been substantiated. And upon taking of the vote, neither of the charge is voted to have been substantiated, then the motion falls and the Deputy President continues to hold office. Well, the team representing the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, who until last evening said their witness was only going to be the Deputy President in response to the charges leveled against the Deputy President. The team is being led by Senior Counsel Paul Moite, being the lead counsel for the defense team. They equally have Elisha Odhiambo, an advocate of the High Court, Mr. Tom Mashira, Advocate Ndegwa Njiru, Advocate John Jomo, Advocate Faith Waigwa, Advocate George Wandati, among others. They are totaling to about 14 advocates who are at the Senate to defend the Deputy President, who is the only witness in his case for impeachment. The defense has equally forwarded documents to the Senate in regards to how they intend to counter the accusations facing the second in command. The accusation among them are the documents that the defense is supposed to be relying on for the better part of today to defend the deputy president are the response to the particulars of the allegations in the motion by Honorable Mwengi Mutuse. This is a response to the charges leveled against the deputy president in the impeachment motion. They equally have presented witness affidavits of Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, EDH, and further witnesses in further affidavits under volume 4 of their documents by the deputy president. The defense equally has video and electronic evidence that will be played for the better part of today as they seek to convince senators why they should be throwing out the case against the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. The deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
Kindly take your seats. Clerk, you may now call the first order.
Order number 1, communication from the chair.
Now, during yesterday's session, there's a volume that had been made available by the Council for the National Assembly. And I remember Senior Counsel Mwite, you sought for time to look at it and confirm indeed that the photocopy did not introduce new material. Can we therefore now admit that document, Senior Counsel?
We looked at it, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and we have no objection now. It can be introduced. Thank you.
Very well. May the same be admitted and be made available to all honorable senators. Next order.
Order number 2, hearing and determination on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Now, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen, at the rise of the House last night, the National Assembly had called 2 witnesses. They had done the evidence in chief, cross-examined, re-examined, and it was then the opportunity for the honorable senators to seek for clarifications when the House adjourned. Now, the National Assembly has a balance of 20 minutes to conclude its case. The Deputy President has 45 minutes. Having taken 1 hour from the 3 hours that had been indicated to the Deputy President for today. Let us stick to the time so that we can be able to conclude this matter in good time today. Now, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen, we will start with the clarifications sought from the first witness of the National Assembly, Honorable Mutuse. Thereafter, we will move to the second witness and conclude, and then we can now allow the National Assembly to call their third witness. Is Honorable Mutuse present? Good.
Present, Mr. Speaker.
You'll be noting the questions and the clarifications sought from the honorable senators. The Honorable Senator for Nandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just clarification
But since we had started yesterday with the word of the Lord, I want to leave to my brother Ekomas Mutuse through you. In Proverbs 12, verses 22, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who is telling the truth. So, Mheshimiwa Mutuse Ekomas, I leave you with that. My quick clarification, Chair, with your indulgence. One, by the time you are giving us that the wealth of the Deputy President was 5.2 billion Kenyan shillings that you allege has been acquired for the last 2 years, did you access the wealth declaration from EACC? Number one. Number two, under the NCIC Act and in Mudhama's case that the courts ruled, is shareholding part of the definition of the word incitement? Number three, in the matter of Kilifi Malindi Road, do you have any evidence to prove whether it is a private or a public road? And if it is either private or public, can you table the evidence or before the House? Number four, clarification on the issue of Justice Esther Maina. Are you telling us that since the Deputy President is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, does he not have a right as a citizen of Kenya not to bring any complaint against any officer, including judicial officers? Finally, on the update, on 1st October 10, 2024, Cabinet Secretary Mutua.
Senator Kenywa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My question goes to Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, was Treetop Hotel, was it available for acquisition? And if that is so, was there any law of procurement that was breached? Second one, what is the age of these DP's sons? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question first goes to the council on the side of the Deputy President. My question is on attack on the national security. And knowing that national intelligence, Mr. Speaker, is a critical organ of a government. And the attack by the Deputy President is a very serious one. And I've seen the video being played that what the current president said when he was the Deputy President is equal. And I heard also Deputy President saying, I have learned from my boss. Does that answer the question of gross misconduct on the part of attack on the security? Number two, the issue of disinheriting the widow. We've been told a lot of stories here, but I really want to know, because we are Africans, matters of widows are very critical. Have you thought of looking for the family of the late Gachagua, just to clarify so many questions that are lingering around that particular family? I thank you.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi. If you're in the first round, honorable senators, allow others also to get an opportunity to seek clarifications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My clarification is to the DP's team. On a video that was played yesterday at a relocation point in Nairobi County, I wanted clarification from the DP's team on whether their client is aware that county governments are distinct governments, and if so, Honorable Speaker, did the DP consult with the county government of Nairobi over the challenges of relocation at Kayole? And two, Honorable Speaker, Speaker, there was a video that was played, either one or two, involving a speech at either rally by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. My question is, what was the essence of that video? And is it to show that two wrongs would make one right? Thank you.
Senator Lelegwe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My clarification is to the witness of the National Assembly. Yesterday, during the cross-examination, the advocate of the Deputy President, you asserted that you have identified several companies which you have no issues and to which you do not attribute any misconduct in their dealings. Given this context, could you inform the necessity for including these companies in the present impeachment motion? Thank you.
Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I have one question for the witness in chief and one clarity question from the counsel for the Deputy President, and particularly Counsel Tom Macharia. So I'll start with the Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, may you help this House understand whether all the companies that you indicated are for the sons and the spouse of the Deputy President, and whether you established how old they are and estimated the net worth of those companies. Did you manage to estimate the net worth of those companies, and how did you do that? To the senior counsel, the counsel Tom Macharia, in the exploration of ground number 4, you led this House to look at the particulars of the coalition document, the coalition agreement. May you help us understand how we should interpret Article 91 of the Constitution and Article 232 of the Constitution with regards to your response on government being a company equal to having shares and not the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sek.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The question also goes to Honorable Mutuse. Wanted to make a clarification on the issue of Peterson Jomo, the affidavit on the Olive Garden Hotel, on the appointment of Julian Jahenda as the secretary or agent, and the letter to the Public Service Commission through the clerk of the National Assembly by volume 8A, page 1, gives a different person by the name Maka Juliana Jahenda. Why do we have different names here? You need to clarify, because it has a different person altogether, two different people altogether. Second clarification is on the issue of the award of the tender on the proposed refurbishment of the DP's residence in Karen. Honorable Mutuse, the government, through the State House Controller, signed that contract. Wanted to know what is the relationship of this contract with the DP, now that you're saying it has some issues. What's all about the contract and the company that did that refurbishment? We need to know what is the relationship and what is the malpractice that has.
Senator Hamida Kibwana.
Mr. Speaker, sorry, my question was for Dr. Mulwa.
Senator Wakili Sige.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've got two questions. One to the Council for the Deputy President, and the other one, actually both for clarification by the Council for the Deputy President. Yesterday, in the course of your cross-examination, you took us to page 410 of Volume 3. This is with regard to the accusation where His Excellency the Deputy President divulged or accused the national intelligence of what you said. Now, my clarification from you, which I desire, is at that page 410, the evidence which you sought to juxtapose what the President did and what the Deputy President was accused of having done is with regards to one being in office and another one alleging that he's not been able to attend sessions where that complaint came from. Give us the correlation of the two. And secondly, I share the sentiments by all the senators who've sought to get from you an understanding about the coalition agreements. You attempted to explain yesterday the relationship between company shares and coalition agreement shares. You were asked about the place of this in terms of the regimes of the two kinds of agreements. What do you say as regards shares in a company registered under the Companies Act vis-a-vis post-election coalition agreements registered under the Political Parties Act and the governance of?
Senator Batuli Betty Montet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to ask Honorable Mutuse, is there a minimum age of a client in a bank to get a loan of 700 million?
Senator Essie Okenyuri.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, my question, I'm awaiting Dr. Andrew Mulwa.
Senator Cheriot Aaron.
Mike. Two quick questions to you, Mutuse. Is there any crime that a Kenyan will have committed if they have 20, 30, or even 40 companies? Because I see you have listed 22 companies here. Is there any crime by just owning these companies you feel that the person you accuse has committed? Second, on this issue of Vipingo Beach, surely, Honorable Mutuse, what is the crime of the sons of the Deputy President being listed as directors? Because I have tried combing through your motion to establish what you consider to be either an illegality or a crime on their part by simply being listed as directors. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is to the Council for the DP, Wakili Masharia. The clips of the then DP Ruto played by your team, could we read it to mean that it's an admission on your part that you're saying, if it was done then by a sitting Deputy President, please allow the current one to commit the same at this point. And lastly, the 30% allocation to Ford Kenya in the coalition agreement in ANC, how has it been realized?
Senator Margaret Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I have one small question for Honorable Mluse, and that is on the witness, somebody who, by the name Peterson Jomo Muchira, who wrote an affidavit that touches on Olive Garden Hotel. He offered himself to appear and be cross-examined on the content of his affidavit. Was he invited?
Senator Kathuri Murungi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine are just very strict clarifications. Number one goes to Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, in ground 7, you have seen that His Excellency, the Deputy President, has inexplicably amassed a humongous, you know, these are very strong ones, property portfolio estimated at 5.2 billion. So my question is, this is within 2 years. I know for a fact that before an election, any eligible candidate clears himself or herself with the IBC before contesting. Therefore, for comparative analysis, do you have His Excellency the Deputy President's property or worth during the 2022, before the 2022 elections, so that now we can be able, as a jury, can be able to compare and see whether for 2 years, for sure, he has been able to amass this wealth. Number two, there is this property in Meru. Many Meru guys have called me last night asking me whether there is evidence to show that this land is in Meru. The last one is to the councils of the Deputy President. There was a clip which was played here yesterday when the Deputy President made a press conference in Mombasa, immediately after the President did this in Nairobi, 2 different cities. Therefore, I did not get clarity from the councils about this, the question or the clip. So I was really requesting either one of them could be able to expound on that controversy between the 2 pressers in 2 different cities by the principal and the deputy principal of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you.
Senator Okoit Omtata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have a question for the Honorable Mutuse. To whom does this motion belong? Because in most of your answers, you keep on saying we.
I think, Honorable Senator Omtata, that question was asked by the Honorable Enoch Wambua, Senator, and it was responded to. So just ask for a different clarification.
Okay, and other than that, I wanted to ask whether Honorable Mutuse knows the difference between an impeachment motion and a censure motion. And if he does, where does he place his motion? Is it a censure motion or is it an impeachment motion? And what are the thresholds for each of those 2 motions, if he understands the difference? Thank you.
Senator Chute.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Mutuse, ulileta ushahidi hapa mbele ya Senate ukidai ya kuwa Deputy President ako na 5.2 billion. Wewe ni wakili. Na vile unaongea jana unaonekana wakili kwa wakili shupavu, ulileta ushahidi gani hapa ya kuonyesha valuation ya hii property ya hiyo katika documents yako kuonyesha imefika 5.2 billion? Swali ya pili, ulileta mashtaka 11. Vile unasimama huko leo, unaona aibu kidogo kwamba ulilete porojo mingi na mambo mingi? Kama ukiwa wakili hujafikiria vizuri, sababu watu wa Marsabit wananiuliza, hiyo mtu kweli ni wakili ama ni mtu amekombolewa kutoka huko? Hebu jibu hiyo swali tafadhali.
Senator Beth Siango. Now, honorable senators, we are going to conduct ourselves in decorum. We are not in any way going to demean the witnesses. Ask your question, but stick to the rules of this House. Senator Beth Siango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. I have two questions. One for Honorable Mutuse. In your presentation, I heard that you touched on the inheritance and property of the late Gachagua. Have you reached out to the widow and the children of the late Gachagua to also give you facts? The next question is to the Council for the DP. Yesterday you played a clip of the president speaking in Muranga. What was the purpose of playing that clip? And how does it relate to the saying popularly now used by Kenyans, kufa dereva, kufa makanga? Thank you.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the Council for the DP. I would wish to seek clarity on the documents that they tabled yesterday, being the coalition agreement, which basically informed the basis as to which the DP has been talking about shares. I just want to know whether there is any document that secures shares in respect of the region where the DP comes from. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, if the Council is aware that his client, at the time those documents were being prepared, he was a candidate for office, and now he successfully became DP, and that he needs to promote national unity, and if it is still in order for him to continue championing for the interest of one region as against the entire nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Richard Onyonk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are two, and I would like to ask Honorable Mutuse. I hold you highly. I don't think that you're as idiotic as our colleagues will say. I want to ask you, between the time when the Deputy President was a Member of Parliament and the time when he became the Deputy President, were you able to see whether there was a deliberate variation in the amounts of money that he was handling? Did you see whether the money that he was handling as a Member of Parliament, for example, changed then to the money that you brought in, where you're saying that there is some money laundering taking place? Were you able, or are you able to show that distinction in order for you to make your case? The second question I wanted to ask you again on the same issue. When you are trying to find out whether there is money laundering on any transaction, and I know chances are you did not have the technical expertise and maybe an investigative agency to help you, but did you by any chance find out money moving from anywhere, either through His Excellency the Deputy President's private accounts or any money that was being borrowed? Because I know that one property you've mentioned that it was a loan, but all these other properties that you allege that the Deputy President had purchased, did you link that from money coming from some place or money coming from some illicit, like you say? Because I don't see that evidence on the table. And finally, I want to ask you again, Mr. Speaker, that if you look at the issue of the will of Mr. Gachagua. That is the former governor. Did you by any chance get a way to ask either through the wife, the children, whether there was a meeting that took place where they were involved, or whether they were unhappy or happy with the transactions which were taking place? Because there isn't any evidence whatsoever of, for example, the wife complaining or the children complaining. Did you get anything like that which is substantive? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mutinda Tabit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My two questions goes to you, Honorable Mutuse. First, in regards to this company by the name Crystal Kenya Limited, Ground 7, date of incorporation is 2009. And the CR12 that you have submitted to this House is for this year. Would you tell this House who was the initial director of this company? If that was so, was there any change of directorship of this company? Secondly, the one on trial is the deputy president of this country and not his two sons. You have linked Crystal to be a proxy for the deputy president through his two sons. Would you tell this House if you have any evidence that shows that money was wired from Crystal Limited to the account or to any company linked to the deputy president?
Senator Shakil Abdallah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to Honorable Mutuse. If Judge Maina had filed any complaints regarding the being harassed by the deputy president. Thank you.
Senator Miraj Abdullah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to Mr. Mutuse, sorry. Is it your opinion that the DP was talking about enforcing the Kenya Kwanza coalition agreement when he was speaking about the shareholding issue? And the second one goes to the DP side, that we were reminded here of the oath we took when we assumed this institution. Is it in your place to say that your client has breached his own oath even before we make a conclusion? Because we were made to read the third schedule here on justice and directly and indirectly revealing such matters, and the oath of secrecy that His Excellency the Deputy President took. In his utterances, he used to speak about not the Mlima being touched. So in the essence of national unity, don't you think that your client, the DP, or you clarify for us that he has already breached his own oath even before we make a decision as the jury of this House? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My first question goes to Mutuse and a comment. Honorable Speaker, I want to find out from Mheshimiwa, out of the 22 companies that you've alleged associated with the Deputy President, how many are really of interest to this particular impeachment? Yesterday you talked about the one in Rea Vivingo, and we saw that 10,000 of the shares, the total shares, are owned by the estate of the late Governor Gachagua. Then a comment, Honorable Speaker, is the clips that were played yesterday on shareholding. I think I want to ask the legal counsel for the Deputy President it looks like we didn't stop campaigns after election. It looked like we continued to propagate campaigns because we expected the deputy president, immediately after campaigns, we stop about this thing of shareholding because
Senator Maanzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this would have gone to Governor Orengo, but since he said the clients, the National Assembly had given him instructions, I would like them to tell me what is the relevance of the verse they read yesterday. And also, on the floor of the National Assembly, they read a verse that when bad leaders rule, badness increases in a country. And when good leaders rule, goodness increases in a country. Finally, what is the maximum number of companies can an individual participate in under the law? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mutuse, you may now proceed to respond. You have exactly 10 minutes to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable senators, for this opportunity. I have, from the questions that have come across, there are many that relate to the companies, and with your indulgence, allow me to start from there. Senator Cheriot, Senator from Marakwet, and several senators have asked why I listed 21 companies and why I said I did not have an interest in some of them. Number one, I think it is important for us to understand the context within which we are operating. I am not an investigator. And the law under Article 94, Article 95 does not make a member of Parliament, the National Assembly or Senate, an investigator. What I'm required to do is to establish a prima facie case, to establish that what is happening is outside the requirements of the law. And having been in this country and with a lot of enthusiasm in matters governance, I also know that this Senate has an opportunity to consider the impeachment of the late Nderito Gachagua. And in that impeachment, because this is a house of record, you will realize that most of the companies that I've listed were also complained about by the County Assembly of Nyeri during the impeachment of Governor Nderito Gachagua. And the complaint was specifically that there was a brother to the late governor, and the brother is one Rigathi Gachagua, who was doing all the business in Nyeri County. And from that basis, therefore, I needed to expound to find out what these companies that had been complained about during that impeachment, what these companies that had been complained about in the Esther Minor decision in terms of money laundering had to do with the Deputy President and the things that I'm alleging against him. And it is on that basis that I listed these companies. I want to invite members of this Senate to also know that in doing this, it is not just about the direct evidence. It is also about the circumstantial evidence. It's also about the circumstances that led to where we are. That there are companies that were complained about doing business in Nyeri County. It came to this Senate. That the same companies were complained about doing money laundering, and a decision of the High Court by Justice Maina has been tabled before you. And today, we are complaining that the same companies are helping to do corruption and money laundering. And that's the reason why we bring those companies. Please notice that in an impeachment, because I've been asked about threshold, and I know you know about it, my work here is not to prove criminal liability. It is not to prove beyond reasonable doubt. My work here is not to prove civil liability, but to show political responsibility. And I have been able to do that. In terms of Vipingo Ridge, the question I want to invite honorable senators, and I request that you listen to me. I was told yesterday that Vipingo Ridge, the two sons of His Excellency the Deputy President, are mere directors, and that the shares are owned by the estate of the late Nderito Gachagua. But then you ask yourself, all of you here, you have children. Why would my brother's children own my estate and not my children? Why would my brother's children be the ones who are directors in my estate and not my own children? If you die today, will your children be the ones being directors of your properties, or it is the children of your brothers? Don't you see this is suspicious? It is obviously suspicious. Number two, in law, and I want to challenge anyone. An estate, what is an estate? An estate is the totality of your belongings. So, can an estate own an estate? It is administrators. We would have expected that the executors in the estate who are named in the will are the ones who would have been named in the shareholding. And we know all these trick games that are being played around to hide ownership. And that, because I talked about circumstantial evidence, that is to be compared with the affidavit of Mr. Jomo in terms of how Jomo was approached to be proxy in buying the property, and how Jahenda, the question that has been asked, is the one operating the accounts. And we have been able to show that the same Jahenda, the same lady who works at the DP's office, is the same person who is the manager at the hotel and is the one who is operating the accounts. So I invite you to see the web of secrecy, the web of conspiracy. It is a web. And this is why I said these are white-collar crimes. They are done by intelligent people. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to get direct evidence, but in the totality of the circumstances, it points to money laundering and corruption. Let me now go to Senator for Nandi, my good friend, Senator Cherangei. Thank you very much for the Bible verse. I'll keep on reading it, and every time I read it, I will remember you. 5.2 billion worth. Did I ask for the worth declaration? I have said here I was not in an investigation journey. I was doing my role under the law to establish a prima facie case. And the last I know, in terms of public declaration, because this has also been asked, the Deputy President, during the presidential debate, as a candidate for election, did declare that it was worth 800 million shillings. I have listed companies, I have listed suspicious transactions that lead me to the conclusion that it is now worth 5.2 billion shillings. The law on unexplained assets, because this is important. The law on unexplained assets is such that you are asked, you own this, please tell us how you acquired it. Because as far as we know, your legitimate income cannot support this. That is what I have done. I have listed properties that I have laid evidence that they are either directly or indirectly owned by the Deputy President. It is upon him, and this law is established. It is upon him to tell us where he got money to buy those properties, because in as far as we know, his legitimate sources of income do not support that income. Senator Kinyua, thank you for the question. Treetop Hotel is owned by KWS and therefore is a public institution. The expectation at law is that it should be, if it was to be leased, that needed to follow the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, and therefore would have expected an advertisement, a competitive process, to leading to its acquisition and leasing to a private person. There is no evidence that that was done, and that's why I allege and I approved that the Deputy President used his office to influence the acquiring of Treetops Hotel, abuse of office. Whether we have had opportunity to discuss with the children and the widows of the late Nerito Gachagua, please allow me not to comment on that, because there are requests also, as I said yesterday, that we keep certain matters that come to our knowledge during this process in secrecy. Senator for Samburu, the necessity of including the companies, I have said, the children of the children of Rigathi Gachagua, they are in, I think one is in his early 30s, the other one is in his late 20s. Whether there is an age limit for somebody to obtain a loan of 700 million, no, there isn't an age limit, but the guess, yours and mine, how many children of that age in the Republic of Kenya would have security enough to secure a loan of 600 million? Because to secure a loan of 600 million, the bankers tell us that you have probably that is 10 times more in value than that. When did they acquire that property? Number two, it is not our evidence, and this is important for me to clarify, that Abadea's Safari Lodges was acquired through a loan.
The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya ought to continue being in office. After the completion of the closing statements by the two sides, we will be having a closed-door session by senators before the honorable members of the Senate consider and vote on the 11 grounds for removal from office. The Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi, has already stepped into the chamber this afternoon. Allow me to hand you over for this live broadcast brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with KBC. My name is Gladys Mungai. Enjoy your viewing.
Na tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, twakusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba tuwajalie tuyatende na kufikia mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk, do you have quorum? So, honorable senators, please take your seats. We do have quorum, so we'll straight away go to this afternoon's business. Clerk, you may now call the first order.
Order number 1, communication from the chair. Order number 2, hearing and determination on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
We'll give time to ample time to parties so that they can adequately present their cases. Now, as of yesterday, the Deputy President had been allocated 3 hours. 1 hour was taken away for other businesses of yesterday and today. That is pursuant to a request by counsel for the Deputy President. And therefore, as we speak, the Deputy President will have 2 hours to present his case, and thereafter the National Assembly will have 1.5 hours, because they've also consumed half an hour of the 2 hours that had been granted to them yesterday. So you had borrowed 10 minutes, you ended up consuming 20 more minutes, as per our record. Council, this is not a matter to debate.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I just wanted to clarify that we had borrowed 10 minutes.
Yes, you borrowed 10 minutes, but you ended up consuming 20 more.
No, we didn't get that indication, Mr. Speaker. In fact,
Now
we had
you're
been,
getting the indication.
yes. We had budgeted our time knowing that we had 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Consume the 1 hour and a half, and then let's see where that takes you, and then we'll be able to engage when you consume the 1.5 hours.
We are most obliged, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, if you're ready, you may usher in your witness.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, just to get clarification, I was under the impression that the National Assembly will proceed and close their case, and that then Counsel for the Deputy President will now present the Deputy President, who is the only one that we are calling as a witness. And that thereafter, the National Assembly will make their closing speech, and we will have the opportunity at that time to also make our closing speech. So I would like to have clarification.
Very well, Senior Counsel. Maybe I'll read the whole program all the way to the end.
Thank you.
You will proceed. Of course, for the record, I will ask the National Assembly to officially rest their matter to allow you usher in your witness. Once your witness takes to the stand, you have 2 hours to present your case. The National Assembly has 1.5 hours for purposes of cross-examination. Thereafter, the senators will have 1 hour to seek clarifications or ask questions. Once that is done, the Counsel for the National Assembly will have 1 hour to make closing remarks. Likewise, the team of the Deputy President will be given 1 hour to make its closing remarks. Once that is done, the Senate will move into a closed session as per our rules of procedure. So that is the program for this afternoon.
I'm now very clear, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and I thank you. The situation is now clear. But just before my colleagues on the other side close their case, can I, through Mheshimiwa Speaker, ask whether the National Assembly still wishes to call a witness whose affidavit was filed, the governor of the county government of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja. We have a copy of his affidavit. Is he going to be called or not called? Because if the National Assembly is not calling that affidavit, whose affidavit is part of the record and was availed to us, that affidavit, Mheshimiwa Speaker, contains allegations that are extremely injurious to the Deputy President. So if he is not going to be called, we will be making an application for that affidavit to be expunged from the records of this Honorable Senate. Thank you.
Counsel for the National Assembly, you had listed quite a number of witnesses. Are you going to call all of them, or are you going to, for the record, are you going to close your case where we are?
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the National Assembly, we shall close our case where we are. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you are, with your permission, I could respond to the submissions by my learned senior, Mr. Paul Mwite.
Please do.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the beginning of the proceedings that we are currently going through, this House did invite parties to give indications as to the witnesses they wanted to call. Mr. Speaker, sir, we gave the list of the witnesses whom we thought were relevant for purposes of clarifying what we needed to have clarified. If counsel for His Excellency the Deputy President did not do as much or did not take advantage of that window that was open, surely they cannot blame us for it. But secondly, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, yesterday, in the course of the deliberations in relation to one of the preliminary questions that had been raised, you gave a very clear ruling on the intendment of Rule 20 of the rules of this House. In particular, the understanding was that every material that was forwarded by the Speaker of the National Assembly to this House constituted evidence in support of the allegations that are the subject of inquiry by this House. It then follows that if the application that learned senior counsel, Mr. Paul Mwite, is making were to be looked at in its totality, he is actually making an application to amend or to remove certain aspects of the evidence from the record. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is an issue that you settled and rested yesterday. I don't think it's an issue that is open for re-intervention. Mr. Speaker, sir, it should also suffice to note that even on our side, there are affidavits that form part of the record that came from the National Assembly. In particular, there is an affidavit sworn and which is in favor of His Excellency the Deputy President, an affidavit sworn by the joint executors of the will, that is Mr. Njoroge Rigeru, together with the other executors. It is part of this record. We have not made an application to have it expand. We have an opportunity to deal with it when the time comes. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the nature of the sittings that this House currently is undertaking is quasi-judicial. It is inquisitorial in nature. If that is to be the correct position, Mr. Speaker, sir, then the rules of evidence as we know it in the court would not necessarily bind the proceedings, because what has been presented is the subject of what the honorable senators are going to investigate. At the end of it, it is not a judgment that they will be giving, it will be a vote. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senior Counsel Paul Mwite.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, first and foremost, the affidavits that my colleague, my learned friend, referred to were sworn by the executors of the will of the late brother to the Deputy President. They were filed in the National Assembly, in the proceedings in the National Assemblies. They were never filed here as affidavits of witnesses that we proposed to call. With regard to the affidavit of Governor Sakaja Johnston, it was specifically filed in the Senate, an affidavit of a witness that they intended to call. That affidavit has material injurious to the Deputy President. Mheshimiwa Speaker, we were looking forward to cross-examining Governor Sakaja so as to bring out the truth to assist this Honorable Senate to make a decision. If he is not being called, and in fairness to the Deputy Governor, all that we are asking is that affidavit be expunged together with the affidavit of Peterson Jomo, who they are not calling now, and also the affidavit of Mercy Wajau, who is not being called. It is not fair to file affidavits containing information allegations injurious to the other party, then ask that those affidavits to remain as part of the record without calling them and availing them for cross-examination. So my application is that the 3 affidavits be struck out. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, just for clarity, there's absolutely no new material that was presented after the material that was sent to this House from the National Assembly. For instance, the affidavit by His Excellency Johnson Sakaja is to be found at volume 1 of the documents that have been filed.
Maybe counsel for the National Assembly. Let me get it clear.
Yes,
the affidavit by the Nairobi governor, was it filed after the proceedings of the National Assembly, or it forms part and parcel of the proceedings that came from the National Assembly?
It forms part and parcel of the proceedings that came from the National Assembly. In particular, Mr. Speaker, sir, all those affidavits form what constituted part of what came into through public participation.
So just hold in there so that we make progress. Senior counsel, you have indicated that the affidavit by the Honorable Governor for Nairobi did not form part of the documents that emanated from the National Assembly. Now, the position as held by the Council of the National Assembly is to the contrary. These are things we can settle now. Did it come with a bundle of documents from the National Assembly, or it was filed after the Senate was seized of those documents?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, I have been corrected by my colleagues. The affidavits where the affidavit by Governor Johnson Sakaja was actually part of the public participation. So it was part of the record of the National
So now,
yes,
let's
yes.
move to the 2.
Yes.
Let's move to the 2. Now, have a seat, Senior Counsel. Counsel for the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yeah, respond to the 2 more affidavits, because the contention from the Council of the Deputy President is that they were filed after the record was received from the National Assembly by the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I reiterate the position that we earlier on gave, that there's not any single document other than the document that was admitted yesterday pursuant to our application that came in after the record had been presented before this House.
So the affidavits were not filed after the Senate received the bundle of documents from the National Assembly?
Absolutely not.
Can you lead us to the volume and the page containing these affidavits from the National Assembly?
Mr. Speaker, sir, just give me 1 minute to consult with my colleagues here. I identify it, then I bring it. It's not an issue that we had anticipated.
Yeah, so that we settle this matter.
Most of that.
Yeah, let's settle it.
It is not, Mheshimiwa Speaker, it's only the affidavit of Peterson Jomo that was filed in the Senate. It did not form any part
Very well,
of the
Senior
National
Counsel.
Assembly.
So then let's settle that one and we make progress. We need not argue on this matter.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think what happened is that we skipped the opportunity to identify the documents from both sides of what had been filed. The documents that we filed yesterday has a volume 8. That is the document that contains the affidavit of Peterson Jomo.
So it is that affidavit, if you go to the Senior Counsel, it is that affidavit that they're looking forward to cross-examining the deponent. Now that you've closed your case, the argument from the Council of the Deputy President is, how then are we going to test the truth of those averments? What say you on that?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I did give an indication that, number 1, at the commencement of these proceedings, any party who wanted to cross-examine any of the deponents of any of the documents had an opportunity upon your invitation to invite such parties to appear before them. If our counterparts appearing for His Excellency the Deputy President did not find it appropriate to call that witness at that point in time, they cannot now hold us to say that you had said you'd call this person, you will not call them. Because the person we were to call was for purposes of clarifying what we thought was important for us. Now, this being an inquisitorial proceeding, a quasi-judicial proceeding, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it would be a stretch to expect that if we didn't call or if we didn't avail any of the witnesses that were mentioned in any of the affidavits, then as of necessity that follows that that record or that affidavit needs to be expunged. That's what I was saying. Pursuant to your ruling yesterday, that is evidence and material that was presented yesterday. It forms part of your record.
Now, before I give my way forward, Senator for Nairobi City.
Honorable Speaker, the counsel that are appearing in this case are people that I hold in extremely high regard. Senior Counsel Paul Mwite appears to not have the confidence of the judges sitting here that we know how to treat evidence contained in an affidavit that is not tested at cross-examination. Even the judges you appear before in the courts that you practice in know what to do with evidence of a person who is not availing themselves for cross-examination. So, Honorable Speaker, I really don't understand what the contention is, because we sitting here as judges know how to treat that evidence, and I wanted to take this opportunity to calm the anxiety of Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, that indeed we do know what to do with such evidence.
Now, so that we make progress, Senior Counsel has raised an important matter, which matter has been responded to by the Counsel for the National Assembly. Now, Honorable Senators, there is an affidavit sworn by one Njomo Mushira, who had been listed to appear as a witness for and on behalf of the National Assembly. The National Assembly has closed its case without calling that particular witness, and yet there's an affidavit that the counsel for the Deputy President will not have an opportunity to cross-examine. The question, as you retire at the end of this hearing, is to look at the probative value of that particular document. Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, your point is valid. The senators have noted.
Because this is an important, very important institution with a judicial function, court of record, permit me to put on record that there is a slight distinction between counsel and the client. I have absolute full faith in honorable senators, including my friend, the senator for Nairobi, but I am carrying out instructions of my client.
Yeah, so I've given direction on this particular matter. Let us move forward. Having said that, Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, if you're ready, you may now usher in your witness.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, we are anxiously waiting for the Deputy President. My colleagues can stand here, can stand in. For me, let me make inquiries and find out where he's held up. We certainly wish to call him as a witness.
Very well. Yes, what is the point of procedure, Senator Boni?
Unprecedented, to the extent that when we stand down business in this House, it normally arises from a communication from the chair that you're temporarily, for a specific time, suspending the proceedings. You have not done this, and we are seated in the chamber. The mess is in place. I do not know whether we want this to be the new standard, Mr. Speaker. Could you guide us? We have no idea how long we're going to wait. And time is running, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, at the rise of the House at 1:15, I made it clear that upon resumption, the Deputy President was going to take the stand. We came in here, I communicated the program for the afternoon, and I said we're going to execute it with military precision, owing to the fact that we need to conclude business today. Senior Counsel Paul Mwite indicated that he cannot get hold of his client. That is not the concern of this House. So time is running. Order, order, honorable senators, order. The floor is available to the Deputy President and no other senator or no other enemy.
Well, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, currently presiding over the business of the Senate this afternoon, has just directed that the floor at this particular juncture is not available to any other senator owing to the...
Enoch, I used very basic English. I know you. You have such a wonderful grasp of the language. You need not to get any clarification.
It is exactly 15:04 p.m. this afternoon, being the 17th day of October 2024. The afternoon sitting of the Senate this afternoon was to kick off with the Deputy President taking the stand, bearing in mind the DP, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, is the sole witness in the case where the National Assembly, through the move of the motion, Honorable Mwengi Mutuse has leveled 11 grounds for impeachment of the Deputy President from office. We have already dispensed with the prosecution side, and during this afternoon sitting, immediately after the commencement of business, the council representing the National Assembly have confirmed to the House that they do not intend to call more witness in regards to this case. The counsel for the Deputy President had requested the House through the Speaker that any evidence where the witnesses are not appearing be expunged from the record. It is a moment of waiting at the Senate this afternoon as the House awaits the arrival of the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, who is set to take this stand at the Senate this afternoon and prosecute his case through himself as well as his defense, and convince senators why the 11 grounds listed for impeachment should be quashed by the House. Our dear viewers, the motion for the removal by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, has 11 grounds where the National Assembly is seeking to have the Senate uphold the charges, or at least one of them, to have the Deputy President cease to hold office today. The mover of this motion, Honorable Mwengi Mutuse, who also serves as Kibwezi West lawmaker, has told senators for the better part of yesterday and today that his desire through this motion is that the House finds the Deputy President to have committed the offenses listed in this motion. And this afternoon, the defense of the Deputy President, led by Senior Counsel Lawyer Paul Muite, will be seeking to water down those charges by the evidence that they will be presenting before the Senate this afternoon. And to just take you through probably some of the charges that the Deputy President will be seeking to counter this afternoon is charge number 1 on the gross violation of the Constitution and any other law. This is pursuant to Articles 150, subsection 1BI of the Constitution. Charge number 2 in the impeachment motion by Honorable Member for Kibwezi West. The Honorable Member alleges in his motion that there is gross violation of Articles 147 subsection 1 and 152 subsection 1 of the Constitution, where the Deputy President is being accused of undermining the presidency. Under Article 147 subsection 1 of the Constitution, the Deputy President is the principal assistant of the President and shall deputize the President in the execution of President's function. In this motion, the Honorable Deputy President is accused of going in contravention with cabinet resolutions on matters evacuation of people residing along Nairobi River, and that shortly after His Excellency, shortly after being in contravention with the cabinet resolution, the Deputy President made public a statement opposing the Nairobi River riparian execution orders. According to the mover of the motion, this is undermining the resolutions by the cabinet. Under charge number 3, again on gross violation of Article 6, subsection 2, Articles 10, subsection 2A, Article 174, and Article 188, and the 4th schedule of the Constitution, where the Deputy President is accused of undermining devolution. The mover of the motion in his motion states that on the 20th of September 2024, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, recklessly and mindful of the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President, unlawfully interfered with the running of the Nairobi County government by holding a public rally in which he incited citizens against lawful directives by the Nairobi City County government on the planning and relocation of markets. This is just some of the grounds listed or some of the annexes under charge number 3, where the Deputy President is set to defend himself on these charges, among others.
Senior Counsel Paul Mwita. Your time started running.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, may I...
Let me just conclude, Senior. Your time started running at the time I requested you to usher in your witness. You indicated that you're getting hold of your witness. We'll give you all the time you need to get hold of your witness, but to let you know that the clock is running and it's running on your client. You can take all the time, but his time is running out. After 2 hours, he's not appeared, the chair will make a ruling pursuant to the rules of procedure.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, may I start first and foremost by expressing apologies and regrets that the Deputy President is not here, and by not being here, the inconvenience and delay caused to Mheshimiwa Speaker and to honorable senators. The position, Mheshimiwa Speaker, is that during that period that I went to try to find out why he wasn't here, because as Mheshimiwa Speaker knows, the Deputy President has been coming here absolutely punctually every day. The sad reality is that the Deputy President, the Republic of Kenya, has been taken sick, very sick, and as I address Mr. Speaker in this honorable House, senators, he is in hospital, Mheshimiwa Speaker. That is a sad reality.
Order, honorable senators. Order, honorable senators. Senator Kajwang. Now, Counsel for the National Assembly, you have had Senior Counsel Paul Mwita for and on behalf of the Deputy President. Considering that this is a time-bound process, what is your reaction?
Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a house governed by the rule of law. We truly empathize with the difficulty that His Excellency, the Deputy President, has found himself in. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Rule 11 of the rules governing this process, if I may, with your permission,
maybe Counsel for the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Just take a seat before you make your rejoinder. Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, having said whatever you've said, what is your proposed way forward so that a reaction can be put from the National Assembly? Are you telling us we wait until your client gets here? What is your proposed way forward?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, I have just received this information. My proposal is that you give me at least the rest of the day. I would like to go and have an assessment of his situation and maybe even come back here by 5 p.m. Right now, I would like to make an informed sort of situation after I see the Deputy President and I see the doctor, Mheshimiwa Speaker, at least an hour or two. Yes, thank you.
Very well. Counsel for the National Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, sir, having very keenly listened to my learned senior colleague, Paul Mwite, Senior Counsel, it puts us in a bit of a difficulty because whereas we may want to empathize with the situation, there appears to be no indication from their end as to a specific proposal. Mr. Speaker, sir, this being a house governed by rules and this process being a time-bound process, I will draw your attention to Rule 11 of the rules of this House. If I may read, Mr. Speaker, sir, that where the National Assembly or the President chooses not to appear before the Senate, that fact shall be put on record and the Senate shall proceed with its investigation without further reference to the National Assembly or the President. But the Senate may, for exceptional reasons to be recorded, permit a later appearance before the Senate by the National Assembly or the President. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think this rule would give us guidance we may proceed. If it becomes necessary, then any additional material may then be availed. This is a time-bound constitutional process, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm most obliged.
Let me pick the wisdom of my wonderful senators before I make my decision on the way forward. Now, I understand that all of you are wise men and women.
Speaker, can I just say a word?
Yes.
I've heard what Senior Counsel Paul Mwite has said. And Mr. Speaker, you have made it quite clear that these proceedings are time-bound. It's not so much about the situation in which His Excellency the Vice President finds himself. It's about the Senate complying with the provisions of the Constitution. That within that time frame, you must make a decision. Reading the standing orders that my learned friend, Mr. Rick Gumbo, has referred to, it would be useful to this House if Senior Counsel Paul Mwite could probably give us a way forward in terms of the time limitations that the Senate has. I'm saying this because we don't want somebody to say that the Deputy President was not given an opportunity to be heard. I think the Senate will want him to be heard. But knowing the time limitation, what suggestions does the Senior Counsel have to ensure that we keep within the time parameters? At the same time, the Deputy President is given his space to defend himself.
So we have two sides. We have the minority side and the majority side. I will only allow the two leaders to speak. If you need to consult in the next 1 minute. Now, honorable senators, our standing orders have not been suspended yet. It is only Senator Mazayo and the majority leader who, the rest, take your seat. The rest, please take your seat. Order, honorable senators.